We are now one step closer to TikTok getting banned. Last night, the Senate approved a bill that will fund Ukraine, Taiwan, Israel, and potentially ban TikTok. They bundle it all together because, that way if you're for one or against the other, you have no choice but to pick. Do you get what you want, or does it all get thrown in the garbage? Now, rest assured, my friends, no matter who you think you can count on, and you probably can't. Maybe it's a little bit unfair, but there is some criticism flying over to Rand Paul for not voting on this bill. Granted, even if he voted no, it really wouldn't have done anything, though some have suggested he could have blocked this with amendments and things like that to jam it up, and it didn't. It got passed. This bill is not just the TikTok potential ban. It is also major funding. $95 billion package sending aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan after months of delay, all at once, ladies and gentlemen. Now, me personally, I got to tell you, I don't actually have a big problem with the bill that will force the divestment of China from TikTok. Now, many people say it's a free speech issue. How could you do this? Companies are allowed to operate in the United States, all that stuff. It's because I don't think the communists in China should be controlling what our young people see and taking our data and all that stuff. And the argument against it is weird. I mean, a lot of people are saying, they just passed warrantless wiretapping and they're spying on us and they're doing all this. And yes, that's also bad. They're both bad, right? So we don't want warrantless wiretapping. We don't want spying. And we don't want China doing the exact same thing. We were talking about this last night on IRL. People, I don't know how true this is, but it's what people have been saying about the TikTok app basically taking all your search history and a whole bunch of other crazy stuff like this. Yes, I would not be surprised. But let's get started here. This is the big social media news. So we'll start with the ban on TikTok. The Post Millennial reports. On Tuesday night, Senate approved a bill aimed at either prohibiting TikTok on compelling its sale, marking a significant rejection of the video sharing platform's Chinese ownership. This move comes after numerous unsuccessful efforts to address the purported national security concerns associated with the app over the years. The Senate voted 79-18 in favor of the measure, which was included in a comprehensive package providing assistance to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. This sends the proposal to President Biden for his signature, of course, which he's absolutely going to sign. Following the House approval on Saturday, President Biden has voiced support for the foreign aid package and indicated his intention to sign the TikTok bill, indicating that it is likely to become law in the near future. Upon signature, the provision would grant TikTok's parent company ByteDance approximately 9 months to divest the immensely popular app, failing which could result in a nationwide prohibition. Full stop. Sort of, but not really. Post Millennial. You could do a little better than this. Rumble has since offered to buy and operate TikTok in the U.S. Now, I'll break this down and give you the nitty gritty here. They will never ban TikTok in the U.S. They will restrict its contracting with it. So it's an effective ban, and that's fair, but I want to make sure I get the nuance in here. Here's basically what will happen. With the passage of this bill, it goes to Joe Biden's desk. Joe Biden is going to sign it. ByteDance has 9 months to sell or break away from China. It's not going to happen, but they're not going to shut TikTok down. If ByteDance does not divest and they say you can't do this and they sue, and they likely will sue because as part of the law's original form, I don't know where it is right now with this aid package, they probably changed it. ByteDance will actually get to go to court and argue against it. Aside from that in the law, they will actually just challenge this in court, on its entirety. So you've got 2 basic lawsuits coming. The first, is this bill constitutional or not? Can you do this? The Supreme Court may outright say no, and then nothing else matters. That'll be interesting. You then have, within the bill, the opportunity for adjudication in D.C., in which case ByteDance could still win even if the law does exist. Now, let's say they quickly lose both of these lawsuits. What happens next is that ByteDance would then be forced to divest, and if they don't, then U.S. services cannot provide space or contract with ByteDance. So, will TikTok get banned? Technically, yes. It won't be able to be on the App Store or in the Google Play Store. For Android users, you could still easily download the app from the TikTok website. The TikTok website would have to use servers that are outside the US, all of which aren't that big of a deal, and it would not ban TikTok in the US. It would just severely restrict it. I know a lot of people are saying, you're pulling hairs here. Nuance. It's nothing. Okay, this is important though. They are not saying TikTok will be illegal. They are not saying you cannot legally have TikTok. They are not saying you can't have it on your phone. They're saying you're going to have to download it from not American servers. That's really all it is. Now, why are they doing it? TikTok is a national security threat. FBI director issues chilling warning from Chinese government use of data from American social media users. Well, let's start from the beginning, my friends. Several years ago, when Donald Trump was president, he wanted to ban TikTok. He tried. Supreme Court said no. I believe it was Supreme Court. There was this lawsuit. They said, you can't do this. You can't ban TikTok. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, the Supreme Court, I don't know the exact ruling, but it may have been, this is not an executive action. It has to be legislative. Typically, when it comes to restrictions under the law, Congress has to approve it. Well, Congress just did. So we'll see. Now, for some reason, Democrats all of a sudden got on board with banning TikTok. And why is that? It's actually plainly obvious. You see, back when Trump was president, he wanted to ban TikTok. The issue was that TikTok is indoctrinating young people to the left. Well, of course, Democrats like that. So they were like, no, you can't take that away. We like what it's doing. And there's your conflict. Then something happened. October 7th, after the attack on Israel, you had a ton of posts on TikTok and all social media that were sympathetic to the Israelis. But then seemingly, after a week or so, on TikTok, pro-Palestine social media posts skyrocketed, leading many to speculate that this was an intentional flick of a switch algorithm change to promote pro-Palestine content over pro-Israel content. And there you have it. You see, Democrats in Congress thought TikTok was fine in the House and Senate. And then once all of this anti-Israel content started going viral and young people started adopting these views, the propaganda that they were being fed, large donors and constituents, not just large donors, started calling Democrats in Congress and saying, why are you allowing TikTok to slander Israel like this? Well, Democrats then snapped to attention and said, we can't allow anti-Israel sentiment in this country because then we're going to lose support for Israel. The simple version is U.S. foreign policy is subverted by TikTok because, it's Chinese. I don't think it's that complicated, right? And now the U.S. is realizing we better do something about this. The funny thing is the deep state intelligence agencies and these Democrat lawyers and all that went after Donald Trump. And now Trump is like right about everything. The Democrats are anti-Israel. And so the deep state must be thinking, man, what do we do here? You support Joe Biden, who's pandering to these leftists, who just had his both sides moment the other day where he was like, I condemn the anti-Semitism and those who don't know what's going on in Palestine. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Now what are you going to do? Biden's pandering to the anti-Israel crowd. Trump's pandering to Israel. This will be interesting. Here's what Chris Wray had to say. Not that we like that guy. He sounded the alarm over national security concerns posed by TikTok. While influencers panic over potentially losing their favorite app, the intelligence chief warned that users should be concerned their data is being filtered to the Chinese intelligence services. I just want to pause real quick and highlight the sheer ineptitudes of the U.S. deep state. Dude, do y'all have any idea how to sell a product? Man, Chris Wray is saying nothing to nobody when he says this. What are you trying to do? Get mom and dad, Gen Xers and boomers to go to their kids and be like, that TikTok app has China on it. They're not going to stop their kids from using it. And many of these young people are older than 18 anyway. You ain't selling nothing. That is not the pitch. They're stealing your data. And they're going to be like, and so are you. What do I care? America sucks. Terrible sales pitch. I suppose probably the best pitch would be TikTok, if they're stealing your data, I wonder if they're getting your sensitive photographs. And I wonder what they're going to do with those sensitive photographs. Could you imagine like some Chinese NSA and they're like all sitting there looking at your photos from your phone that you never wanted to share? Oof. And they're just, sharing them with each other? Well, I don't know about all that, but it's a better sales pitch than China is stealing your data, young people. Here's why you should care. Because they're not. They're going to be like, dude, we've had no privacy ever. The young people aren't looking at China as the great adversary because they don't, I'll put it this way. You flood the country with non-citizens, you give them luxury apartments, you drive prices up, you strip the ability of young people to get into the market to have a family, and they're not going to feel anything about the United States. So when you say the U.S. is concerned that China's stealing your data, they're going to say, and so are you, and you're both bad guys. You've earned no favor. You've given them nothing. So why should they care? Ray's stark warning came after Congress passed a potential TikTok ban as part of a wider set of foreign aid legislation. And here we go. And here's the rest of it. I don't think you're going to win over young people when they don't like Israel either. CNN says the Senate on Tuesday passed a long-delayed $95 billion package with wide partisan support after both sides of Capitol Hill have struggled for months to send aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. The final vote was 79 to 18. 15 Republicans voted with 3 Democrats against the bill. 48 Democrats and 31 Republicans voted for the bill. The legislation next goes to Joe Biden to sign into law, who he said he would sign the package Wednesday. So here we go. Wow. Man, that's crazy. Look, the aid package is the aid package. The U.S. does this all the time. It's bad. We hate it. But the TikTok divestment bill is huge. This is making moves. People post on social media all the time, nothing ever happens. Well, this is something. This is nuts. I don't know how they're going to handle this. It's kind of wild. So Michael Tracy shows us the list of all the people who voted on this. He says, here's why. Actually, let me just, do we have this one? No, let's pull up this tweet first so you can see the full context. Michael Tracy says, actually, let me zoom in so you can actually read it. Here's why you can't necessarily take yes or no votes from politicians at face value in terms of their substantive positions on legislation before them. If anyone thinks Marco Rubio and Rick Scott are opposed on principle to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan funding, I have a bridge in the Everglades to sell you. Both are two of the most hardcore interventionists in the entire Senate. Both have long denounced Biden for not being aggressive enough in arming Ukraine, supporting Israel, and antagonizing China. And both admitted last night that their rationale for voting no was purely about extraneous political calculations, not the substance of the bill itself. He goes on to mention a bit more, but you can take a look at all the votes. Actually, I have this from CNN, how each U.S. senator voted on the $95 billion foreign aid package. 46 Democrats said yes. 31 Republicans said yes. We got 2 no's from the Democrats, 15 no's from the Republicans. 3 Republicans didn't vote. 2 independents said yes. 1 independent said no. Now, I suppose we can say this. Rand Paul voting no was meaningless, but why didn't he vote? Honestly, I have no idea. I mean, maybe he was in the hospital. No, seriously, I have no idea. So here we go. Let's take a look at who didn't vote. We have Rand Paul, did not vote. We have Rick Scott, did not vote. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not Tim Scott, did not vote, not Rick Scott. There's 2 Scotts. And I saw that. So that's Tim Scott of South Carolina. And then you have Tuberville, also didn't vote. So what's that all about? Why not? Michael Tracy says, furthermore, it's bizarre that Rand Paul and Tommy Tuberville, apparently could not be bothered to vote last night. Unless there was some sudden medical emergency that's physically prevented them from showing up to the chamber, it's inexcusable. He says, what are these guys even elected to do, if not cast votes on the most consequential legislation that's come before their body in years? They are literally 2 of 100 people in the entire country, 330 million, with a vote on whether to fund multi-theater global warfare campaign. Wow. That's one way to put it. I hope you all are ready for what this turns into and where we go. The Hill breaks down even further. 10 senators helped advance Ukraine aid after voting against it. Did they really? Did they mention who it is? The 9 Republicans are Katie Britt of Alabama, Tom Cotton, Debbie Fisher, Lindsey Graham, Cindy Hyde-Smith, James Lankford, Mark Wayne Mullen, Pete Ricketts, and Tim Scott. All right. Well, let's break it down. Look, I'm actually a fan of divesting, forcing ByteDance to divest. The reason being, as I stated earlier, it's bad enough we get U.S. spying. We don't need Chinese spying. But most importantly, Yuri Bezmenov said, the communists are going to try and take over your schools and take over the minds of your young people. If only he could foresee the internet and social media, he'd warn us not to let them do that as well. And I'd been sent the Yuri Bezmenov video like 8,000 times. But now there are people who are like, Tim, you don't get it. They want a bad X because Elon Musk is from South Africa. Okay, here's what would have to happen. First, and no, this is about TikTok first and foremost. There is a circuitous path towards forcing Elon to divest from Twitter or X. Sure. Here's what would have to happen. First, the bill only targets China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. They would have to amend a separate law, all of Congress, to add South Africa to the list. I don't know that that would work. Pretty sure Elon Musk is also an American citizen. So they would have to then name Elon Musk himself as one of these adversaries listed in this bill. That's not going to happen. If they did list Elon Musk, then they could require Elon Musk to sell X. So that's not going to happen. Short of that, the bill only affects investment or control from China, Iran, North Korea, not South Korea, China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. Some have said yes, but there's Saudi funding for X, which means they would have to divest. That's it. So X would need to find an investor to buy out the Saudi investor if there was one. It's not the end of the world. I don't think they're going after Rumble and X. I think that is a weird excuse. And you know, one of the most frustrating things to me about all of this is I know exactly why they want to ban TikTok. It's because of Israel. And it was funny because I was talking to a journalist and he was like, thank you for admitting that. And I was like, admitting it? Like as if I was obfuscating and intending to cover up what's going on in Israel. Oh, these people, I'm just so sorry. Like, dude, Israel derangement syndrome people, I swear. They just live in this world where everything's Jewish in Israel. And so when I say something like, yeah, clearly the Democrats are mad, the donors are mad about Israel being besmirched. And they're like, ha, so you admit it. Why are you laughing? I'm reporting it. It's a fact. Now, these people are deranged. But I get that. And so now I'm told by people, they say, well, shouldn't you then realize that you're on the side of the bad guys? The bad guys want to ban TikTok. And I'm like, dude, this is not an enemy of my enemy is my friend's thing. This is my enemy is my friend. This is someone comes up to me and says, hey, here's a really bad thing. I don't like it. Here you go. Someone brings in a sandwich drenched in cilantro and it's moldy. And they go, we want to get rid of this because it's covered in cilantro. And you're like, cilantro's not bad. Why are you trying to get rid of cilantro? And you're like, guys, the sandwich is moldy. Like, what are we even arguing? They're not saying ban cilantro. It's banning TikTok. And again, oh man, the semantics. It's not even really banning it. It's forcing them to divest. They're basically saying, we want to take the cilantro off. And I'm like, dude, it's still moldy. Fine. Take off the cilantro. And some people like cilantro. That's right. Some people like the Chinese Communist Party. It's true. Trudeau, for instance. But come on. Just because China, just because Schumer, it doesn't mean we allow China to do these things. It doesn't mean that we sit back and let them indoctrinate our young people and the younger generation. Here's what we need in this country. We need Trump to win. We need our intelligence agencies to actually start caring about this country instead of burning it to the ground. We need social media platforms to also care about this country. The indoctrination we want in schools and on these apps should be to work hard, get fit, and raise a family. That's not what's happening, though. Instead, those that advocate for these things are getting banned. It feels, whether intentionally or not, like a culling. You've got a bunch of leftists sterilizing their kids, aborting their kids, teaching them things that will cause them harm. And it doesn't feel like there is an attempt to actually help preserve this country or expand humanity or save humanity. It feels like Malthusians are quite upset, don't like how many people there are, and want there to be less. Well, I don't know that that's true, but there are many people who believe it. Malthusians, of course, are the people who believe in something called the population bomb, that there's too many people and that the earth will become overpopulated. I don't think so. I think humans are smart. I think that when humans start to overpopulate, they'll build spaceships and then they'll go to other places. And we'll figure it out. We'll build biospheres and things like that. I certainly think we have too much concentration of people. That's fair. But there are many people who want to cull the population. Now, I'm not saying that they are, but it certainly does feel like they are. If that's the case, then why wouldn't there be a World War III? Why wouldn't there be? If you really believe that there are powerful global corporate elites and political elites who want to reduce population, then you'd have to assume that everything they're doing is trying to make World War III happen so they can reduce population. Yeah. But I don't know for sure. It just feels that way. In the meantime, TikTok is running out of time. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.